Hello everybody, so the positive Manchester United news keeps coming with Bruno Fernandes agreeing a new big deal at Manchester United that will make him a top earner at the club. We'll talk about wages in a moment, but first of all, I think there are a couple of things I would say here. Very interested in the comments on this because, look, even Ricky, the legend of the United stand, ain't too sure about Bruno. So there are fans out there who aren't too sure about Bruno. And I did a video back in March talking about, can you win a title with Bruno Fernandes in a Manchester United side? So I think there's two things I would say here about the way that Bruno plays. Is he an Odegaard? Is he a De Bruyne? No, he's not. Is he a player in a high press, high possession situation that is patient on the ball? Or is he more of a counter-attacking 10 who's looking for that Hollywood risky pass? That's a conversation you can have. Get it into the comments straight away. But what I would also say is, let's plan out the alternative. Ineos say, we're not giving you a new contract. Bruno Fernandes waxing a transfer request. I mean, the way he's played this summer with his agent has been textbook. We know from Fabrizio Romano that this is an exclusive and the contract is there. But at the start of the summer, we also know from Fabrizio Romano that his agent was going around talking to other clubs in Europe. So if Man United hadn't given that contract, it follows to reason that, Bruno was looking for other options. So the other option would have been, you're not having a new contract and Bruno Fernandes leaves. That cannot be the situation. I'd argue that with anyone. Bruno Fernandes cannot leave Manchester United this summer, and he's not going to. But that if I'm Sir Jim Radcliffe, that's the statement. He cannot leave. He is the player that's always available. He is the captain. He's one of the few influential leaders we've got in that dressing room. You take Bruno Fernandes away, we're going to struggle. We saw it last season in a couple of games where he didn't play. And even though Bruno didn't have the best of season, when he's not in the team, we're worse. So Bruno Fernandes cannot leave. Even if you don't agree with the wage, even if you don't agree with the contract, even if you think that Bruno is not the right player to win as a title, at this stage of our rebuild, he cannot leave under that Ineos regime. So that's where I come at from this. Even though I probably do take on board a couple of things that, make you think, he cannot be allowed to leave this summer. He's too influential. He's the captain. So it's great news that he signed a contract. There are a couple of things I would say. He is approaching 30 this year. We have given him a contract that will run for 3 years with the option of another one. So you're taking him to 33, 34. That doesn't massively bother me because when you look at his injury record, it's incredible. He's a robot. And then when you look at people like Modric and Kroos, who've played at the highest level with Madrid well into their mid-30s, why wouldn't Bruno be able to do that? He's not even a holding midfielder or an 8. He's more of a 10 anyway. So he's playing in the position where traditionally players can play to a lot longer. So that doesn't worry me too much. The wage, well, look, the only issue with the wage is that Ineos have come in and sacked a load of people. And then, as part of that, they're saying it's not just, ordinary people losing their job. We're going to have a look at the wage bill at Manchester United. And they've got to erode that. They've got to bring it down. Every new player that comes in can't be getting what every new player's been getting for the last few years, like 190k for Maguire, 250k for Sancho, 350k for Casemiro and Varane. We can't do that anymore. But with Bruno Fernandes, he has to be a top earner. So when Fabrizio says this is the new contract, he will be the top earner or one of the top earners at the club or whatever, Mason Mount was on more money than Bruno Fernandes. Bruno was on about 240k. Mason Mount's on 250. Rashford, we think, is somewhere between 3 and 4, and Casemiro the same. Sancho's probably on a little bit more than Bruno's old contract as well. So Bruno has to be the top earner. If they've given him 300 grand a week, yeah, I think some people will be like, well, I thought you were trying to reduce the wage bill. But then, yeah, I don't really know what I think about that, because if there's one player that deserves to be our top earner, it's Bruno Fernandes. And when you look at what the likes of Liverpool pay Salah and Van Dijk, and when you look at certainly what Man City pay people like De Bruyne and Haaland, then Bruno should be up around 300k a week. That's logical. You just cannot break your wage system in the future if you bring another player in and they go, I want to be on what Bruno's on. In the past, we go, you can have a little bit more. Man United have got to say, Bruno Fernandes is our top earner because of this, and this. He's available. He's the captain. He plays every week. He's been at the club for years. He's earned that wage. You are not coming into Manchester United on that wage. And that's just the way we need to do it in the future. So I don't have a huge problem with that. I think the big question is, I don't really care about the wage. I don't really care about the age. I don't really care about the contract that's been handed out. You cannot let Bruno go. The question I asked in March, and I would ask you, is Bruno Fernandes the right type of number 10 for Manchester United in 3 years to be winning the Premier League with? And that's the question that needs to be answered. For now, he's perfect. You can't let him go. Even next summer, I don't think we'll be in a position where we'd be going, we need something better. But I do look at Odegaard, and I do look at De Bruyne, and I do look at possession-based teams and how they look after the ball. And there's an element to Bruno's game, and we saw it last season a lot, where he didn't actually play well. I remember going from Christmas to March and saying, I can't remember the last time in the player ratings I gave Bruno Fernandes higher than a 6. And that happened. That actually did happen. And that's incredible for Bruno, because Bruno is such a massive player for us. And I think the reason for that was the team was all over the place. You know, we had no rhythm. You know, we had so many injuries. And I just hope that there's a maturity to Bruno's game and our game where we wander away. And I saw it in the Community Shield yesterday. He picked the ball up on the halfway line and we're on the break, and he's got space to run into. There's runners in all sorts of places. And the first thing he does is 40 yards over the top to try and get Rashford in. I think that is the problem with Bruno, and I think that is the problem with some of our players. It's become so ingrained into us, especially in the Solskjaer eras, to get the ball and look for that ball over the top for the pace, that we need to move away from that. And I personally think Bruno Fernandes is more than capable, and you see him sometimes do it with Portugal, and you see him sometimes do it for Manchester United. I think if you dropped Bruno Fernandes into a Man City side for a couple of weeks, I don't think he'd be pinging balls in behind for Doku every chance he gets. I think he would become more controlled and measured because he's a talented footballer. So I don't actually have a problem with that. I think it's a style of football that we just haven't got at United. We even yesterday were looking for that long ball all over the top all the time. We've got to resist that and start being more possession based. And actually, the older Bruno gets, maybe the older he gets, the more. I mean, you see it with Messi. You see it with Modric. The older they get, the more composed they become in the fact that, give me the ball, I'll pass it back. And with Bruno, he's more than capable of doing that. So, look, we need to evolve as a team, and Bruno needs to evolve as a number 10. We want to be a high possession team that creates chance after chance after chance in and around the box. At the moment, for the last few years, it has become a little bit sporadic, a little bit Hollywood, a little bit, fast-paced. We need to slow the game down a little bit and have more possession. I think Bruno's capable of that, but you've got to create the platform for that to happen first. And the overarching thing for me is that Bruno Fernandes is staying at Manchester United. There's always been that little bit of a doubt that there might be an issue. There isn't an issue. He can't be let go. He's such an important player. He should be the top earner at the club. It gives us security that he ain't going anywhere for a few years. He's never going to go anywhere now. Like, no one's going to pay the money. So he's never going to go anywhere. We've got that security blanket of Bruno being here for the next 3 or 4 years as our captain. We know the influence he has on the younger players and he has on the team. I think it's a really positive day, and it's a really positive weekend for Manchester United with De Ligt coming in, Mazraoui coming in, Bruno staying. De Ligt's got the potential to be another leader. We know we've got others coming through. We've got Bruno there. It's foundations again, isn't it? And I'm very excited to see what we can do together, because I think the most important thing for Bruno's development and United's development is that we find this style of football that's more akin to an Arsenal, a Liverpool and a Man City and even a Brighton, where it's just about possession and looking after the ball. I think Bruno can do it, but I think the temptation to just hit that Hollywood pass all the time is there, because that's what previous managers wanted us to do. Counter-attack, moments. We need to be more measured. I think Bruno can do it. Get your comments in below, though. What do you think about this deal? What do you think about the wage? What do you think about the player? What do you think about what it means for the future? Are you happy with it? Is it the right thing to do? I think 100% it is, in my opinion. But over to you. Smash a like and subscribe. I'll speak to you on the next one.